All right. So what you just watched was a connection from the past, from the distant past, to the most recent past, to the present, and we're going to push it into the future. We're going to make some serious connections. So happy February. Welcome to Black History Month. And we're going to make some deep level connections from the transatlantic slave trade through the Emancipation Proclamation of the Civil War, through the 1960s Civil Rights Movement, all the way to the progressive equal rights movement that went on last summer and continues today. Okay, so Investigation 11A. We're going to look at two prominent civil rights figures from the 1960s. So from the 1560s all the way up to the 1860s, 300 years, give or take, you have 300 years of slavery in America. Okay, the Emancipation Proclamation freed the slaves, and the Equal Rights Movement began in the 1860s. From the 1860 to 1960, 100 years of equal rights conflict and violence and protest, where many Americans refused to accept more equal rights for African Americans, and other Americans pushed for it. Americans who were citizens and Americans who were citizens who were in the government as well. Okay, so then we move from the 1960s all the way to 2020, and what has changed? So here's Investigation 11A, Martin Luther King Jr. versus Malcolm X. This is image analysis. What is our goal? What is our investigation? What is the prompt? The question we must answer. Here we are, highlighted in blue. Martin Luther King Jr. or Malcolm X? Which philosophy made the most sense for America in the 1960s, and which would be appropriate for American society today? Very complicated, complex question. In order to answer that question, we have to get to know what was the civil rights movement. You just watched a short video that introduced you to it in the 1960s. We have to learn who Martin Luther King Jr. was, who Malcolm X was. We have to look at the similarities and differences in their philosophy on the equal rights movement, their plan. So the first thing we're going to do is look at some image analysis. So everybody open up your grid. We're going to split screen now. And we're going to go side by side with Mr. D. This is the 11th time this year that we're doing this. We should be able to do this with speed and accuracy. Let's go. Image number one. I see two men. They're smiling and shaking hands. Who are they? Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Where are they? At the U.S. Capitol. When are they? March 26, 1964. So who is the creator of this document or the speaker? We don't know. Unknown. What is the occasion? We know we're in the U.S. Capitol, March 26, 1964. U.S. Capitol. March 26, 1964. This is during the Civil Rights Movement. You could also type that. Okay. What is the perspective of the speaker? Where there is nobody speaking, it's an image, right? So what perspective is this from? I would say the perspective of somebody who wants us to understand the relationship between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. See that? They're smiling and shaking hands. We look at that image and we say, were Martin Luther King and Malcolm X friends? We don't know exactly they were friends, but we know they were friendly. Here's an image. Okay, and this is very similar to the purpose. To inform, inform the reader of the friendly relationship between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Okay? Now, what is the meaning or the message? This all takes place during the civil rights movement of the 1960s. So let's say during the civil rights movement of the 1960s, okay, and Malcolm X maintained a friendly relationship. There's not much more we can pull out of this because we just see two men shaking hands, right? So this would be evidence, looking at this, that they may have had some ideas in common. If you have ideas in common with another individual, you are more prone to be friendly with them, right? Because you agree on some ideas. Okay? Give you 30 seconds to catch up. Okay, image number 2. Who's the speaker? Who's the creator? Who took this photo? So now we see a large march and we see a lot of signs. We demand freedom, voting rights now, end segregated rules in public schools. Segregation means separation. So there was separation in public schools. We march for jobs for all, a decent pay. We demand decent housing. Then you look at the crowd, and you can see in the center is Martin Luther King Jr. holding his hands up, connecting hands with other individuals. Now you look very closely in this image, even though it's black and white, you can tell that there are many African Americans in this crowd. But if you look even closer, you can tell there are also Caucasian people in this crowd as well. There's a mix of race in this crowd. And that's what we see here. And does this look like a violent protest? No, it's a peaceful march. So who is the creator? Dr. Martin Luther King, March on Washington in 1963. And the photo is by Arnie Sachs. Okay, Arnie Sachs took the photo. What's the occasion? The March on Washington in 1963. So in this photo, Martin Luther King Jr. marches in Washington, D.C. for equal rights, jobs, voting rights, end the separation of kids in public schools, decent housing. You can see what he stands for in the signs behind him, in a multicultural sign of support. Okay, so there is no speaker. This is just an image. So what's the point of view? third person point of view of a peaceful march for equal rights. Okay, so now what's the purpose here? What is the purpose of taking this photo? Well, to inform the reader or the onlooker, the person who looks at the photo, of Martin Luther King Jr.'s multicultural support for equal rights. This is multicultural support here. People of different race and cultural backgrounds holding hands in solidarity, in unity, trying to push this movement for more equal rights forward. What rights, Mr. D? The rights on the signs. All right, so what is the meaning or the message here? Mr. G's going to go deep, right? This is what you need to grow into by using your historical thinking skills. If he's holding hands with people of different racial backgrounds, and they're a mixed group of people from racial backgrounds, all agreeing on the rights that every American deserves, regardless of the color of your skin, what is the message here? Martin Luther King Jr.'s philosophy for equal rights, it was inclusive. It included everybody. Okay? To be inclusive means all groups could join. My movement, my institution, my party, inclusive. I will include everybody. To be exclusive, if that's exclusive, it's only selected for one group. Okay, inclusive and exclusive. So now, moving on, the same way we looked at the image with the signs and the crowd and the hand holding and the implications, what is the meaning, what is the message? You move on to image 3. And I want you to do image 3, 4, 5, and 6.